In the Middle East, few rivalries are as consequential as that between Israel and Iran. For decades their conflict simmered in the shadows, fought through proxies, cyber attacks and threats. But in 2024, the shadow war erupted into direct military strikes, marking a dangerous new era. The world watched as two of the region's most powerful militaries exchanged blows, raising fears of a wider war. The stakes are global. Energy supplies, refugee flows, and the risk of superpower involvement all hang in the balance. To understand how we reach this point, we must look at the history, the drivers, and the evolution of this rivalry. This is not just a regional dispute, it's a global flashpoint. Let's explore how a hidden conflict became an open crisis. Before 1979, Israel and Iran were unlikely partners, non-Arab states allied with the US, sharing intelligence and economic ties. That changed overnight with Iran's Islamic Revolution. The new regime led by Ayatollah Khomeini recast Israel as the Little Satan and cut all ties, making support for the Palestinian cause central to its foreign policy. This wasn't just politics, it was ideology. Iran's leaders saw Israel as illegitimate, fueling decades of hostility. Iran began supporting militant groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in Gaza, projecting power through proxies. For Israel, this transformed Iran from a distant rival into a direct threat on its borders. The era of proxy war had begun, with both sides locked in a cycle of suspicion and confrontation. The former partnership was replaced by a deep ideological divide. The seeds of today's conflict were sown in those revolutionary days. The Middle East would never be the same. Iran's strategy has been to surround Israel with a network of proxies, the so-called Axis of Resistance. Hezbollah in Lebanon is the crown jewel, armed with thousands of rockets and acting as Iran's deterrent on Israel's northern border. In Syria, Iran's support for Assad has created another front, while in Gaza, groups like Hamas and Islamic Jihad receive Iranian backing. Iran's influence even stretches to Yemen and Iraq, tying together a web of anti-Israel forces. Israel responds with relentless airstrikes and covert operations, aiming to disrupt Iran's entrenchment and weapons transfers. This ongoing proxy war keeps both nations on constant alert, with civilians often caught in the crossfire. The daily reality: a deadly region-wide chess match with no end in sight. The stakes grow higher with every move. At the heart of the Israel-Iran conflict is Iran's nuclear program. Israel sees a nuclear-armed Iran as an existential threat and has vowed to prevent it at any cost. Iran insists its program is peaceful, but years of secrecy and intelligence leaks have fueled deep suspicion. The 2018 Mossad raid on Tehran's nuclear archive revealed past weapons ambitions, intensifying global concern. After the US withdrew from the 2015 nuclear deal, Iran ramped up uranium enrichment, edging closer to weapons capability. For Israel, this is a red line, one that could trigger preemptive action. The nuclear issue remains the most explosive flashpoint in the rivalry. Much of the Israel-Iran conflict has played out in the shadows through assassinations, cyber attacks and sabotage. Iranian nuclear scientists have been targeted in Tehran. Israel's Mossad is widely suspected. The Stuxnet cyber attack crippled Iran's centrifuges, while both sides have launched digital strikes on critical infrastructure. Maritime attacks on ships linked to both nations have added a new dimension to the shadow war. These covert operations allow both sides to inflict damage without triggering all-out war. The message nowhere is truly safe and escalation is always a risk. The shadow war set the stage for open confrontation. In April 2024, the conflict burst into the open. An Israeli airstrike on Iran's consulate in Damascus killed senior Iranian commanders, a direct hit on sovereign territory. Iran responded with an unprecedented barrage, over 300 drones and missiles launched directly at Israel. Thanks to coordinated defense with the US and allies, Israel intercepted nearly all projectiles, limiting damage. Still, the message was clear. Iran was willing to strike Israel openly, breaking decades of proxy-only warfare. Israel's response was measured: a pinpoint strike on an Iranian airbase near Isfahan, close to nuclear facilities. Both sides signaled their capabilities while avoiding all-out war. The world watched, anxious for the next move. The taboo of direct confrontation had been shattered. A new, more dangerous phase had begun. The direct strikes of 2024 have left the region on edge. The risk of escalation is real. One miscalculation could ignite a regional war involving Hezbollah militias and even global powers. The consequences would be catastrophic mass casualties, economic turmoil, and global instability. Yet there's still a narrow path for diplomacy. Renewed nuclear talks and clear communication channels are essential to prevent disaster. The choices made by leaders in Tehran and Jerusalem will shape the future war or a fragile peace. The world can only hope for restraint and wisdom. The next chapter is unwritten and the stakes have never been higher.